What's going on, YouTube? It's Dave's Daily Trades, back again with an update for AMC. So finally, we saw a little bit more volume. We saw finally a sign of life for AMC, and overall a very decent day. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the technical analysis and also looking at the options chain. What to expect for tomorrow, what we're watching, support and resistance lines moving forward, and of course, guys, analyzing what I think is going to be a great week to come. But without further ado, let's roll right into that intro and hop into the technical analysis. And we're back. All right, guys. So as of yesterday's video, we were talking about this micro distribution, which seemed to be a accumulation, and it played out perfectly, guys. So yesterday we did break out of this descending level right here that started going back, all the way even further than 1221. So breaking out of that was really great. We essentially crossed over the creek, came down, retested, and really closed yesterday right around this level. And today, what happened? Well, it was a perfect phase D of the accumulation schematic here. So what happened is we push up in pre-market, we LPS over here, which is your last point of support, and then we move up into our SOS phase. And our SOS phase is determined by A, your automatic reaction, and your PS. So let's actually zoom out and take an overall look of this. So you have your PS, that is your stopping of the selling pressure. Your selling climax down here establishes the lower end of your trading region. Automatic reaction, that's where we're getting our top region from. We'll actually just move that over a little bit in preparation for tomorrow. You have your sell test in phase B here. You have a move up. And what actually played out is your spring. That happened on the 29th, just yesterday, when we did hit that recent low of 26.65, and then we test, we move our LPS, and then SOS. Now, I know a lot of people were probably a little bit concerned with this drop end of day, but honestly, it was nothing to worry about. This was just a cool-off period, and we still, all in all, held this area and this move today very nicely. I mean, closing at 28.94, that's still above max pain. If we actually jump into it, we can see that the max pain for tomorrow is going to be that $28. However, once we jump into the options chain, you'll see some interesting things going on with options activities around $30. Now, as we know, for the past, I don't even know how long now, feels like months at this point, where every single time on Friday, or if it's a holiday, Thursday, we close slightly beneath max pain, showing that there is some manipulation around that level, and the shorts do everything in their power to drive us below that area. However, I'm really thinking tomorrow we continue this bullish momentum here. And of course, we'll break down exactly why. But let's actually just jump out to the 1 hour chart and look at the larger scale accumulation schematic. So what's exactly happening here? You do have your PS. This was established on 11:30. Your selling climax, sell test in phase B, our spring, which acted on the larger scale time frame as well. You get your test, and then you get this over here, which is a combination of your test, another test at this lower range, before we start moving up into phase phase D of this accumulation schematic. So this should all play out. And the reason why I am breaking it down on the micro, on the macro, and on that even larger time scale is because we can get an idea of how all of these accumulations and mini accumulations all play in together here, which is really great to see. So for tomorrow, I do believe since we have touched this line over here, this 28.93, we will start to move up. However, if we can't hold this, which I really believe we are going to hold this going into Friday, I do see us potentially coming down a little bit lower, potentially back down to $27, even $25. But however, this scenario right here coming back down to these levels is highly unlikely. I mean, the great thing that we saw today was volume. Volume was higher than yesterday, which is a very great sign to see. But B, there was a lot of buying pressure. I mean, we saw a lot of buying coming in here. And look that was our high of the day, right at $30.19. And that actually beat pre-market. Over here, sorry. There we are. There's pre-market. So we beat the levels of pre-market in the middle of the day at the high of the day, which we have not seen for some time now. But jumping back to we'll actually jump right over to the day chart, and we'll just give a quick volume analysis. So today we saw 35.8 million shares traded, still, of course, on the low side. But if we look at this, we were actually, we'll start here, trending down in volume. Starting on 12/21, we saw 46 million, 36 million, 37, 30 million, 31 million, 30 million, and we're really stuck at this level of 30 million today. But breaking out of this trend over here and seeing that buying pressure starting to increase, that's really great signs. And especially seeing that we got a higher low A and a higher high, that's phenomenal, especially when you have that volume increasing over time. I know it's only 2 consecutive days here, but this should absolutely continue, guys. That is what I am hoping for. And while we are on this one-day chart, this is the larger scale accumulation schematic that I'm personally looking at. So we've gone over this before, but just a quick summary. You have your PS over here. That defines the higher end of your trading range at $48. Selling climax, sell test in phase B. And in phase B, that defines the lower end of your trading range, which, look where we closed today. That would be at $28.97, and we closed at $28.94. So right on the lower end of our trading range. That's very great to see. Anyways, we come up, come back down. We have our terminal shakeout over here. But we already got that breakout and back into the trading range. This over here, this consolidation that happened this week, was really your test phase on the larger scale accumulation schematic. So I do believe we are going to start breaking back into our trading range, potentially to $33 to $35. Take one last retest and then break out of this channel here. However, there are some, I guess, trend lines and support and resistance lines that we do have to be, or just keep at least in the back of our head. So the first, I'm looking at this downward trend here. First established on 12/1. We got rejected once here, once on 12/8, again on 12/21, and that's 1, 2, 3 times. And it looks like we are going to be potentially coming up as early as tomorrow for that 4th retest. And guys, as we know, AMC loves breaking out of channels on that 4th test. So if we do get that 4th test, that would be phenomenal. Maybe retest this range real quick of 31.15, which is the lower region of our trading range, and then start to make moves up. Now, once we do, this trend line right here at $33.85, or just call it $34, make it easy. This is very, very weak. I mean, we were only held here, and we are on the 1-hour chart once and twice. And this was a large wick up, so we don't really have too much resistance here that we have to worry about. So breaking out of this region will be, I don't think, too much of a struggle for AMC. But what I'm watching after we do break out of this channel is this next red downward channel here. So that would be potentially at, depending when we come and retest it, somewhere around $38 to like $37. We'll jump back to the day to give you guys a little better picture here. But as you can see, you have your 1, your 2, hopefully come back, retest this, test support, and then break out. So that's what I'm potentially thinking. And once we get out of that on the larger scale time frame, we're looking great. And we're going to be pushing up to our SOS over here, which is the higher end of our channel. And just to put this into perspective for you folks, this is what we're talking about here. This applies to the larger scale schematic on that 1-day chart, the micro on the 1 hour, and even the most tiny time frame of the 5-minute chart that we started the video off with. So I'll link this in the description below. I urge you guys to really read into this, understand what PS is, selling climax, automatic rallies or reactions, because there's a lot that goes on with this. We're talking about testing out supply and demand, testing out certain support resistance lines, a lot to do with volume, and a lot to do with really trying to accumulate as many shares as possible. So when you think about it, a lot of traders out there use stop losses or limit orders or whatever you want to call it, and a lot of kind of combination of things. So what they're doing is they're breaking down certain levels to then get stop losses, to get those limit orders, and then they start piling in because they know people are going to be selling, especially when they break major support lines like this on the spring level here. So that is why reading this and understanding this entire theory makes a lot of sense. And just one last thing before we do move on. A lot of people have been saying that AMC is manipulated. You can't do TA. Well, the only reason we actually cover Wyckoff accumulation and distributions here is because the overall theory and understanding of Wyckoff is that you have the market maker, or as this theory calls it, the composite man, who does manipulate the price in their favor to either A, accumulate shares, which is in the case of AMC, or B, to distribute those shares and actually dump all of their holdings of the stock. So that is why Wyckoff is so important, because it does take the understanding that stocks are manipulated either to the upside or the downside. And that's all it really is. Now, let's jump into the options flow. So what we saw coming today wasn't too crazy. Of course, as always, I have this filter set to 100,000 in premiums. Oh, come on, Unusual Whales. Sorry, my computer's being a little slow today. So we don't have too many large orders coming in. But as you can see, end of day today, we did see 3 bullish orders come in. A was the sell a put, and then 2 $30 calls for the 2/18/2022 expiration and the 1/28/22 expiration. We had some decent premiums being paid for this. This was 108,000, 103,000, and the put that was sold was 289,000. This right here shows me that they know the floor is in, and they know that the composite man is about to really just rip the price to the upside. Now, we'll jump into the historical flow for AMC, and if you guys remember yesterday, call volume is right around 60%, so seeing this move up to just about 65, I love to see it. Volume, absolutely in the favor of the bulls. We're looking at 72.1%. We'll go into today's levels, and we'll give you a good look for what expirations and strikes are being targeted. So, of course, a lot of activity for 12/31. That's tomorrow. We do have a lot of activity for 1/7/22, and additionally, a lot of activity going on way out for that 7/15. And this, guys, is the minimum premium is $1,000, and this is just today's actual breakdown. However, what we're seeing, if we look at the strike prices, is relatively interesting stuff. So we had a lot of activity for the 28, which makes a lot of sense based on today's price action. But additionally, a lot of activity around that $30 strike. Now, that's interesting because, as we said before, we know that the options is really a messy, manipulated, whatever you want to call it, is going on within the options chains. All the time for the past month, couple weeks, whatever you want to say here, we have been closing right below max pain. So why are we seeing so much or a decent amount of activity for that $30 strike if max pain is $28? Could we actually now start destroying the shorts and start moving past max pain? That would be freaking interesting. That would be really interesting stuff. So I guess nonetheless, we're not going to get too ahead of ourselves here. We'll see what happens. But additionally, you're starting to see real good volume at that $40 strike as well. So we're going out the money at this point here, which nonetheless, always great to see, guys. But before I do kind of cover everything up, all in all, I was very happy today. Volume did start to pick up, which is great to see. Of course, it wasn't expected during this week. Now, going into tomorrow, could we see more volume? Absolutely. But are we necessarily guaranteed on that volume? No. It's Friday. It is New Year's Eve. I don't know why I had to second guess that at first. So volume may be a little dry, and we may kind of float around that $28 level, specifically because, why? Max pain. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. Nonetheless, this SOS phase doesn't have to play out automatically. We can really consolidate in this area before either A, making a jump to the upside, or B, before coming back down, having a micro level distribution or a reaccumulation before we decide to head up and retest that $30 range. But nonetheless, guys, things are looking freaking great. Of course, tomorrow I'll break down everything going into next week. But until then, be easy, guys. Peace out.